All right, folks, here we go with the notes for Chapter 6, Managing Personnel. All the things that you need to know concerning human resources and your role in hiring and firing and checking people out. Through careful selection, orientation, training, compensation, and benefit programs, and also by providing a diverse as well as a safe and responsible working environment, managers directly impact the success of their organization. That's kind of the key, the overarching theme of what we're going to be talking about with this chapter. Do all those things and you'll be a successful boss. So there, class dismissed. No, I'm just kidding. There's much more. Managers who fail to properly manage human resources are constantly forced to deal with problems related to turnover, low morale, inefficient performance, and litigation. So I think we can take a look at this in the general sense at some of the things that are happening in the economy, especially if you've paid attention to what's happened throughout 2021 with the workforce and the things that the workforce has had to reckon with in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, where you are seeing workers step up and make more demands of what they are willing to do and what they're not willing to do and for what wages they're willing to do those things. And it's something to which managers have definitely had to reconsider what the value of work is and what that means to the overall state of the business in terms of their expenses and the ways that they grow and expand and things like that. But recognizing that the value of the people that they are responsible for as managers is going to have to be something that, as this conversation develops and grows, that is definitely going to be a significant part of what we look at when it comes to, yes, the wages that we pay workers, but also the way that we treat them and value them and make them feel as though that they are a significant asset to the things of the things related to the company, if you will. Now, department heads or middle managers are responsible for individual units. Those are the folks that determine the number of individual positions needed to accomplish their unit's tasks. They look at the things that have to be done, and they try to determine how many people are going to be able to make sure that that task gets done, either because of the scope of the work, the amount of the work, the length of time that it takes to do those sorts of things. All of that gets put into consideration. A term here, force field analysis. This considers two different forces as variables that impact effectiveness and help to properly diagnose the company's environment. I'm talking about driving forces and restraining forces. Driving forces are positive forces, things like increased earnings, praise from supervisors, competition, that sort of thing. The things that are received favorably or seen as favorable things that we're attracted to. Restraining forces inhibit these driving forces, and these can range from employee apathy and hostility to outdated equipment, anything that really hampers the overall work environment and the overarching goal of accomplishing the measures that the company has in place. Let's take a look now at some of the different roles of different people in the company when it comes to dealing with employees and dealing with hiring. Roles of a department head, so your basic supervisor, if you will. They're going to recommend the hiring or the terminating of individual employees. They're going to determine what wages they should be offered for their work, make recommendations on those anyway. They're also going to consider vacation and other leave requests whenever someone needs to call off sick or take time away for whatever reason, make decisions on how that's going to work. They're also going to conduct performance reviews of the employees that are underneath them, and they're going to coordinate any ongoing training and development plans of employees. They're generally the people that work most directly with those particular employees, so they would kind of be on the pulse of what is needed in terms of them to have knowledge and skills and practice in order to do the jobs that they need to do. Now, the general manager, that person is going to review and approve personnel recommendations, things like hiring, promotion, termination. They're also going to approve those salary levels that are suggested, and they're also going to look at other priorities that are requested by the department heads. In addition, the general manager is going to make sure the organization adheres to all of the legal guidelines regarding personnel, especially in the areas of hiring, diversity, and compliance with all applicable labor laws. So they're going to make sure that whatever is going on from an employee standpoint, from a hiring standpoint, firing standpoint, that all those things are going to be within what a company is allowed to do and not allowed to do, with rules from federal and state and local governments. And in the media world, also including different standards that are put forth by the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. GMs are also going to handle negotiations with various craft guilds and unions that represent employees. And we'll talk more later in the chapter about guilds and unions and some of the involvement there. This will be kind of a different take for us as we're looking at it from a managerial standpoint in the scope of this chapter, where in many other courses we've talked about it from the standpoint of the employees that may seek to join a guild or a union. So some things to consider. Now, the roles of the personnel manager or the human relations manager, HR manager, human resources is another term that is used out there. They're all basically the same person, the same role. But the personnel manager is going to maintain records on all employees. They're going to have all the files on that employee, like the application, the resume, any documentation on performance reviews or issues regarding discipline or praise or advancement and things like that. They're also going to monitor recruitment for individual positions. They're going to arrange for job training and make sure that the formal term is professional development, that those things are happening on some sort of basis. They're also going to establish benefit programs. They keep track of what's happening with your health and your 401k and some of the other things besides salary that companies will offer an employee. They're going to monitor changes in labor laws and collective bargaining agreements and be on top of those things. They're going to educate employees on issues such as diversity and sexual harassment, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the chapter. And they're also going to work with the general manager on setting salaries for the organization as part of the budgeting process. So there's going to be that sense of how much we have from a funding standpoint overall to pay employees, and they're going to kind of keep watch on that to make sure that the company doesn't go over budget or has some sort of contingency whenever they want to make a particular financial offer to a potential or current employee. So at this point, this is going to be a good place for us to take a break. We're going to get into the hiring process when we go over to part B of chapter 6.